Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the fascinating science of cellular immunity and unpacking the clinical claims behind prime IV hydration and wellness. We are going to look at exactly how modern intravenous therapies are designed to bypass our body's traditional biological bottlenecks to really optimize our health, energy, and recovery. I love this vivid metaphor right from our source material. Your body is a fortress. Think about that for a second. Every single day, you're constantly defending against pathogens, viruses, and environmental toxins that are just looking for a single weak point. Usually, we don't even notice these little skirmishes. But when your defenses drop from stress or lack of sleep, well, that fortress can absolutely fall. To wrap our heads around this clinic's approach, we're going to hit these 5 points: the bioavailability crisis, the IV therapy solution, what's inside their immunity armor, cellular energy with Niagen, and finally, the actual clinical experience. All right, kicking things off with part 1, the bioavailability crisis. The reality of taking oral supplements is actually pretty shocking. When you pop a standard vitamin pill, it faces a genuinely brutal environment. The source notes that harsh stomach acids, bile, and complex liver filtration act as this massive roadblock. So much so that by the time that vitamin finally makes it into your bloodstream, you might only be absorbing, get this, 20 to 30% of the nutrients. The rest is literally just flushed away. Which brings us to this brilliant comparison from the clinic. Dealing with a 20% absorption rate is like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. I mean, it makes total sense, right? When your body is actively fighting off an infection or dealing with high systemic inflammation, a low absorption rate just doesn't give you enough firepower. You're left with a severe bioavailability gap exactly when your body is begging for resources. So, how do we fix that gap? That brings us to part 2, the IV therapy solution. The whole idea here is to bypass that super inefficient digestive system entirely. Just look at the 2 pathways. On one hand, oral pills take this slow, really destructive journey through your gut, which totally diminishes what you absorb. But on the other hand, intravenous delivery skips the gut completely. By injecting a concentrated cocktail of vitamins directly into the venous system, the source describes the result as a tidal wave of health rushing straight to your cells. And because it skips the stomach and the liver altogether, the source points out that bioavailability hits exactly 100%. Every single drop of fluid and every last milligram of those vitamins is immediately accessible to your thirsty cells. There is absolutely zero loss of potency. Let's move on to part 3, inside immunity armor. We really need to break down the specific high-dose compounds they use in their immunity armor IV, because each ingredient has a very distinct tactical role. You've got vitamin C acting as the fuel, and fun fact, white blood cells actually contain vitamin C concentrations up to 80 times higher than your plasma. Then there's zinc, the gatekeeper that literally halts viruses from replicating. B-complex vitamins step in to provide the raw metabolic energy you need to mount a defense. And finally, glutathione acts as this master antioxidant shield, detoxifying your liver and cleaning up metabolic waste. Now, the clinic specifically tailors this to their local environment in Wall Township, New Jersey. They point out that everyday things, like that brutal New York-Philadelphia commute, the damp coastal winters, rampant allergens, and just chronic high-paced stress, they all create a state of continuous low-grade inflammation. It's basically background noise that distracts your immune system. So when a real viral threat shows up, your body is already spread way too thin. All right, on to part 4, cellular energy and Niagen. If we want to understand how they tackle things like chronic fatigue and brain fog, we absolutely have to talk about NAD+. This is a mandatory coenzyme found in literally every living cell. It's essential for turning the food we eat into usable energy. But here's the startling biological reality highlighted by the source. By the time we hit middle age, our natural NAD+ levels drop by roughly 50%. 50%! That is a massive loss of youthful vigor. And working right alongside NAD+, you have your mitochondria. You probably remember from high school biology, these are the microscopic powerhouses inside your cells producing ATP, which is basically your body's energy currency. The source emphasizes that protecting these super-sensitive organelles from damaging free radicals is absolutely critical. When your mitochondria get damaged, ATP production tanks, and you're left dealing with prolonged muscle soreness and lethargy.
To fight back against that, the clinic uses a compound called niagen. It's a highly researched precursor designed specifically to safely bump those depleting NAD+ levels back up and restore your mitochondrial function. So instead of just masking your fatigue with another cup of coffee or an energy drink, they're aiming to fix those complex energy deficits right at their biological source.
Which brings us to our final stop, Part 5, the clinical experience.
So, what does a visit actually look like? The source outlines a really straightforward, customized process. First, certified medical pros conduct a rigorous health assessment to get a read on your unique biological profile. Second, they help pick a custom formulation exactly for your needs. And third is the administration itself, taking about 45 to 60 minutes. They've designed it for absolute comfort, taking place in a luxury environment complete with heated massage chairs. Not bad, right? But how does it actually feel? Well, according to the clinic, patients often describe this distinct cool sensation as the fluid enters the bloodstream, which is rapidly followed by a real surge of mental clarity and energy. And crucially, because the fluid they use is isotonic, meaning it matches the natural makeup of human blood, it absorbed super rapidly without causing any stomach upset or, thankfully, any energy crash later on. Before we wrap this up, it's really important to mention how the clinic addresses some common myths, because they emphatically separate themselves from those trendy boutique hydration bars. First off, this isn't just a hangover cure. It is a clinical-grade medical protocol for immune modulation. Second, as great as superfoods are, you literally have to eat physically impossible mountains of spinach and dozens of oranges in one sitting to match these blood serum levels. And lastly, they stress that safety is totally foundational, utilizing pharmaceutical-grade ingredients and strictly sterile, single-use equipment overseen by medical directors. The source material really strongly advocates for ditching the whole reactive, sick day mindset and instead using nutrient infusions for proactive maintenance. So let me leave you with this question to chew on. Will you continue treating your immune system reactively, or is it time to proactively build your biological armor? Thanks for joining us for this explainer. Stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.